Look, if you've got elderly parents overseas, you know the official pathways to bring them to Australia can feel, well, impossible. But what if there was a little-known, yet totally legal strategy to reunite your family, right here and right now? We're about to dive into a method that could actually make that happen.
And that's the big question, right? It feels like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you wait a lifetime or you pay a small fortune. But today, we're going to break down a third option, a very specific onshore strategy that gets around this exact problem.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the problem, then introduce the solution, the Onshore Bridging Strategy. We'll walk through the process step by step, compare the huge cost difference, flag the critical pitfalls you absolutely have to avoid, and finally get real about what life is like in this legal limbo.
Okay, first things first. Let's just admit it. The standard government routes for parent visas feel completely broken for most people. And when you actually see the numbers, you'll get exactly why everyone's so frustrated.
So, the system basically gives you two choices. On one side, you've got the contributory visa. This is the so-called fast option, but it'll set you back over $100,000 for a couple, and even then, the wait time is now pushing past 12 years. On the other side, there's the non-contributory option. The cost is way more manageable, around $7,500, but the wait, it's a staggering 30 years or more. For elderly parents, neither of these is a real solution.
And this is where we get to the heart of it all, a strategy that uses the system's own rules against itself to create a brand new path. The key that unlocks everything? It's age. If your parents are over the Australian pension age, which is 67 right now, they're considered aged. And believe me, that changes the entire game.
The whole strategy hangs on this one single thing, the Bridging Visa A, or BVA. The easiest way to think about it is as a legal placeholder. When you're physically in Australia and you apply for a proper visa, the system just automatically grants you a BVA. It's what lets you stay here legally while you wait for your main application to be processed, no matter how long that takes.
So here's how it plays out in 4 simple steps. 1. Your parents come to Australia on a regular old visitor visa, just like any tourist. 2. While they're here, you lodge their application for an aged parent visa. This is what triggers step 3. A bridging visa A is automatically granted, but it just kind of sits in the background waiting. And then step 4. This is the magic part. When their visitor visa runs out, that bridging visa just kicks in automatically, letting them live in Australia lawfully, pretty much indefinitely.
Okay, so that's the big idea. Now let's get down to brass tacks. What does this actually look like on a calendar? Here's a rough timeline of that first all-important year.
So it all kicks off before they even pack their bags, when you lodge that standard visitor visa. About a month later, they land in Australia. Then, and this is important, you let them settle in for a few weeks before you lodge the main aged parent visa application. They just live here normally for the rest of their visitor visa, and when that expires, the bridging visa takes over seamlessly. Now here is a really crucial piece of advice. The sources are very, very clear on this. You can't just apply for the parent visa the day after they land. That looks incredibly suspicious to immigration. You've got to wait a bit, say 2 to 4 weeks.
And this right here, this is probably the single biggest hurdle in the entire process. For that initial visitor visa, you have to pass what's called the Genuine Temporary Entrant Test. That means you need to show hard evidence, like property deeds, pension statements, ties to their community, that proves your parents have a life to go back to. It absolutely cannot look like they're packing up and moving for good, even if that's the long-term plan.
All right, so your parents are in the country. Now you have a choice to make. You can apply for 2 different types of aged parent visas while they're here. And this is where things get a little weird, because the smart move is to actually pick the visa that's designed to be slow.
So you've got 2 choices. The Subclass 804, which is the cheap one, costs about $7,500 all up. Then you've got the Subclass 864, the expensive one. The initial fee looks the same, but look at that. The 864 has a massive second payment of almost $90,000 that you have to pay before the visa is granted. And here's the kicker. With the wait for the 864 now over 12 years, you're paying a fortune to still wait over a decade.
I mean, just look at this. The picture really says it all, doesn't it? We're talking about a choice between roughly $7,500 and nearly $95,000. When you think about it for elderly parents, the logic is pretty clear. Why pay all that extra cash when the bridging visa lets them stay here anyway?
And this is the aha moment. This is the whole forever bridge idea. You deliberately choose the cheap visa because its 30-year processing time is so ridiculously long. That wait time actually becomes your biggest advantage. The goal isn't really for the parent visa to ever be granted.
The goal is to live a secure life in Australia on the bridging visa that gets triggered by the application.
Okay, this all sounds pretty good, but, and this is a big but, the whole strategy is loaded with potential traps. This next part is probably the most important of all. We're going to talk about the mission-critical gotchas that you have to get right, or the whole thing could fall apart.
And the sources we looked at couldn't be clearer about this. There is one single visa condition that can completely torpedo this entire strategy before you even get started.
It's called Condition 8503, better known as no further stay. If that condition gets stamped on your parents' visitor visa, they are legally blocked from applying for any other visa while they're in Australia. It's game over. To avoid it, the advice is simple. Apply for the standard tourist stream, not the sponsored family stream. Ask for a shorter stay, like 6 months, because it looks less permanent. And in every single piece of communication, you have to keep emphasizing their strong ties back home.
The next big gotcha is all about money. While your parents are living here on a bridging visa, they get zero access to Medicare. That means private health insurance, specifically overseas visitor health cover, is non-negotiable. You have to budget for this, and for an elderly couple, the sources estimate you could be looking at around 1,000 Australian dollars every single month.
And there are a few other key rules. First, you have to pass the balance of family test, which just means at least half of the children live here permanently. Second, you'll need to provide an assurance of support, which is basically a refundable bond you pay to the government. And third, if your parents want to travel overseas for a wedding or a holiday, they have to apply for a different bridging visa, a BVB, before they leave Australia, every single time.
So, let's say you navigate all of that perfectly. What does life actually look like for your parents day to day? This last part is all about setting realistic expectations for what it means to live in this legal limbo.
Well, the most important thing to remember is they are 100% legal residents. They can live here with security. But they generally can't have a paid job, though volunteering is okay. As we talked about, there's no Medicare. And travel is possible, but it means dealing with that extra BVG application each time. So you really have to reframe what success looks like. The end goal isn't getting that permanent residency card in the mail. The end goal is having a secure, stable life together as a family in Australia.
And that really brings us to the final question. This strategy, it's a powerful workaround for a system that's just not working for many families. It lets you be together, but it also comes with real compromises. No public health care, serious travel hassles, and a life lived in a state of permanent temporariness. So is it a clever path to keeping your family united, or is it just a compromise too far? That's really the decision at the heart of all this.